in 2012, I fell in love with Ted like everyone else in America. All right, back in 2011, I saw a test screening of it when they were still not even fully done with the animation for Ted. So there was a standing teddy bear, there was nothing there sometimes, a tennis ball. But what was there was the voice of Seth MacFarlane. There was Mark Wahlberg. And then a few months later, I saw another test screening of it where it was a little more well put together. And then it came out, and I saw it again, and I was blown away. I graduated from film school in 2012, and my family came out to see me graduate. And I'm like, you guys got to come see this movie Ted with me. And I made them see it, and they all loved it. Even my mom, who I thought would hate it because my dad and brother are a little more risky and comedically excited, like myself, but my mom actually found it adorable. And when we're leaving, they were talking about like, oh, they could do so much. They could do a TV show. They could give Ted a wife. They could do another movie, this and that. And well, they gave Ted a second movie, and it wasn't as good in my opinion. When I first saw it, I'm like, this is a bomb. This is terrible. But it had moments. And then I rewatched it. I'm like, all right, it was good. It wasn't as fantastic as the original, but it still had its own merits. And then years later, and Peacock ended up putting out a Ted series. And it was great because we're watching John and Ted as children, essentially, in high school, as young adults. And that was a fantastic season. But now we have Ted season 2, and it is freaking perfect. So Ted and John are now seniors in school and preparing for the real world. Let me give you a rundown of all the episodes. I'm not going to spoil anything because you can just see it with the titles and whatnot, and the wild avenues it takes and twists and turns you can't predict, and I can't even spoil. All right, so the first episode, John and Ted discover that the school has like a phone, and they decide to call a phone sex hotline because, you know, back in the day you used to always see like after hours like on TV, hey, we're slutty sexy young ladies, we want to talk to hot men, call us at 1-888 blah blah blah. And of course they can't do it at home because the bill would be crazy, but they end up calling with the school's phone. And then it takes a crazy twist and turn when essentially they have to lie to the school when the school finds out about it, and they're doing all these investigations of who's calling and this and that. A wild episode. The next episode is interesting because Ted has an affair with a married woman, and it gets raunchy and crazy real fast. There's another episode after that where Blair, she has midterms and she can't focus without and study without doing weed, and she doesn't have any, so she reluctantly goes to Ted and John, and they surprisingly don't have any. And they're like, well, let's go to the guy that we go to school with. He sells drugs, I think, and he's kind of on a downward spiral right now, and he's sad because he is a dungeon master, and his campaign, his group, has left him because they don't like the way he runs his show. And so essentially, John, Ted, and Blair decide, hey, you came up with this big, grand campaign. You're sad that you can't do it, that you're so sad you can't sell his weed. But what if we play the game and do the campaign? Will you sell his weed then? And he's like, yeah. And on the flip side, John's parents essentially are reading an article in the newspaper about these kids who were on weed and got caught, and they got in some trouble. And the newspaper says if the parents were more involved with their kids, this wouldn't happen. And they're kids that went to school with John and Ted. So they're like, all right, let's spend time with them. And they end up doing the D&D campaign with them. And we're actually seeing a campaign, like all the stuff comes to life, and it's like this medieval comedy, which is fantastic and hilarious. Then the next episode, essentially, Blair breaks up with her girlfriend at a party, gets really drunk, and hooks up with Ted, and the aftermath of that is hilarious. And Susan ends up feeling like she isn't getting all she needs from Maddie, and she becomes an alcoholic in the episode, and it's kind of dealing with a breakup and alcoholism, and some funny stuff happens there. And then the next episode is essentially John and Ted realize that they have no extracurricular activities, nothing to help boost up their possible resumes to get into college. And they decide, hey, let's join the school play because the hot girl's doing it. I want to get to know her, and it's something to toss on her school resume. And it's just funny watching these two guys who know nothing about plays starring in a play, or starring in their way in a play. It's interesting. The next episode, a little controversial. Blair gets pregnant and wants to get an abortion, and Susan and Maddie are totally against it. Everyone's against it except, surprisingly, Blair gets a little bit of help from John and Ted, who are all about it, and they're willing to help give her money to get it. They're willing to get their ass kicked so she can get in the abortion clinic, and it's heartwarming, it's gut-wrenching, it's beautiful, it's a great episode. The next episode is crazy because John and Ted getting a little deeper than they ever anticipated with Johnny Law, and Susan says, oh, no, they didn't do it, I did it, and she gets sent to prison. And essentially the family crumbles without Susan, and it just chaos ensues in the household without Suze. And Suze ends up thriving in prison and being a mother to her fellow inmates. It's a great episode. And then we get to the final episode here, which I forgot to mention in one of the episodes, there's not enough money, so Maddie and Suze both start working at a local Dunkin' Donuts, and President Clinton comes to town, and Maddie hates him, and he's like, I'm going to give him the work. I'm going to tell him how I fail. I'm going to tell him off. And there's a hilarious scene there, and I love it. But all right, so let's jump forward. Maddie is the dad, and he's always irate and angry, and he has a heart attack, and if he has one more, he could die. So the family wants to keep him kind of safe and sheltered. They want to put kids' gloves on him. They want him to just stay and relax at home. And unfortunately, as he's in bed, the OJ verdict is given. You know, the whole, if the glove don't fit, you must acquit, that whole thing, and him getting off. Well, they know if Maddie finds out that OJ is acquitted, he's going to lose his shit. So they cut the cable, they cut all the news, they stop bringing the newspaper, and Ted and John and the family put together a fake newspaper daily, and it's just all the stuff Maddie wants to read, all his hot takes. There's a funny cartoon that funniest pages, a cartoon that John puts together that Maddie falls in love with, and it's great. It's hilarious. This episode is great, but the end is where it gets kind of sad because, well, now John's kind of a man. He's graduated, but he has no aspirations. His dad is a little ashamed of him, and he decides, I'm not going to spoil what he decides, but it essentially shows that this is the end of the series, unfortunately, because now they're leading us off to where we're essentially going to meet Ted and John in a few years when he becomes essentially Mark Wahlberg. But it's funny the way they do it. The voiceover comes back in. They even poke satire at the fact that Max, our star here, doesn't look like Mark Wahlberg, and the fact that they had a movie that is going to be the continuation, and the fact that the sequel's not great, but it's funny, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And essentially, Seth MacFarlane has gone on record saying, unfortunately, there won't be another season because it's like making an Avengers movie every episode because there's so much CG work that goes on to make Ted because it's a talking, walking, beautiful looking teddy bear. So the budget's too high and they can't do it. But there's going to be a continuation to Ted 2 in the animated form. There's going to be a Ted the Animated Series that comes out by the end of the year that stars Seth MacFarlane, Amanda Seyfried, and Mark Wahlberg. So we're getting what I'm kind of shocked we didn't get before. And I'm excited because you can do so much in the realm of cartoons. And of course, Seth MacFarlane is the king of adult cartoons, in my opinion. So it's going to be great to hear the voices and see all that. And it's going to be cool, but I'm going to miss this family because this show is hilarious. It's thought-provoking. And it takes place in a day and age I know very well. The 90s in Massachusetts. I grew up and I currently live in Massachusetts, and there's so many things that are just called out, and like there's so many Easter eggs for people from Mass. That's what we say, Massachusetts, because we're too lazy to say the whole thing. And the nostalgia of the 90s. I love it. There's a great joke in here about Bagel Bites, you know the song Pizza in the Morning, Pizza in the Evening, Pizza at Supper Time. There's a freaking awesome, hilarious joke about that. There's a scene, like I said, in the episode where they're doing the school play where Ted's auditioning, and he just essentially dances and sings the Gummy Bears theme song, and he's bouncing around on. Yeah, it's freaking hilarious. This show's so delightful. It's hilarious. It's beautiful. It's so damn good, and I'm so sad that we're losing it. But we have about 2 good seasons here, and hopefully maybe they'll change. Maybe this will do so good, because the first season did gangbusters numbers, and they're like, we're doing a second season. Maybe this will do as good, and they'll get another season. Fingers crossed. I hope so, but I don't know. But yeah, I loved this show in this series, and this season is even better than the first, which I didn't think was even possible. It's freaking awesome. If you haven't seen it, check it out. How do you feel about Ted, the movie? Do you like the original? Do you like the sequel? Have you seen the first season of this series? Do you like the series? Have you seen the second season? Do you agree with me on the whole Ted universe? How do you feel about Ted and Seth MacFarlane? Let me know all of your thoughts, questions, comments, and concerns in the comment section down below. Down below, folks. Please, I want to talk about Ted, and I want to talk about Ted Season 2. So please, let's talk about it in the comments below, folks. And thank you for watching this very long-winded review. I just love this series so much, I couldn't help but do an extra long take on it. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far and you like what I had to say, why not do yourself and myself a favor by hitting like and subscribe to stay in the loop, because I'm putting out daily videos right here on this platform. And if you haven't liked pop culture podcasts, I have one. It's called Movie Toast, news and reviews, and it's available wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you, and please stay toasty.